I don't want the 22-year-old medic coming in and staying at my little 10-person agency for 20 years. Would I love it? Yes, but you're 22 years old. There's so much you can do.
So much.
So much more.
Welcome to another episode of the EMS Wizard podcast. You have the two reoccurring guests only, but we do have a very special guest joining us for this episode. We do have Mr. Jeff Hinshaw. He is a PA in the emergency department at Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist, and that's just one of the many things that this man has been involved with, and he's been involved with so many different great things and contributing to emergency medical services overall. So we're just really fortunate to have you join us for this episode, Jeff.
Mark, thank you so much. Kathia, too. Good to see you on this Sunday evening. And I am humbled by the comments. I greatly appreciate them. And I am truly honored to be a part of this. That was a great thing when you reached out to say, hey, are you willing to do this? I am like, oh, yes, would love to do this for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of the people around our area are familiar with probably your YouTube video more so than anything, because we do watch that every year, and we include that in our training just this time of year right here in August, right before football season starting up. That's something we do all the time. And I just wanted to make sure you knew, hey, you're still making an impact. Yeah, that we're still using that all the time. And I reached out to you just to let you know that. And I was like, man, I need to ask this guy to come on the podcast. This would be awesome, right?
Great setup. And totally engaged to do this. The player down video was just a wild hair idea. As many of you may or may not know, my background is in sports medicine. That's what my minor was in. I had a career compass needle that was kind of moving right to left back in the early mid 80s. What I wanted to do, did I want to go into medicine or go into athletic training at the time? And I have been so blessed in my career to be able to have the triangle of career legs, if you will, to match emergency medicine with pre-hospital care and then sports medicine. And there were all these training videos about spine injuries and how to take off equipment, how to manage things, but none of them went start to finish. They would go up to a point, the video would cut away, and the gear would magically disappear. The patient would magically appear in the emergency department. There's a big gap. So how do you address the gap? And was able to get funding through the Children's Institute for Pediatric Trauma, Mackenzie Beamer, and a shout out to the EMS for Children program with the North Carolina Office of EMS. Extremely, extremely positive outcomes with this, to be able to make the video and have equipment that we supplied to EMS agencies and to high schools. The video is 8 years old, and is still salient even today with the new 2020 spine injury guidelines that came out from the Athletic Trainers Association. So if you were evaluating my career and said, hey, where did he swing for the fence and hit the home run? That's got to be it, Mark. That's got to be it. And I am so proud of that. And kudos to everybody who watches 33 minutes of that video every July, August, or September. And so you're running a podcast here today, and I'm certain some people understand how long it takes to put one of these videos together. The editing from your end, the sound. Does Jeff say something wrong? Did somebody have a hiccup? Did the phone ring in the background? Any guess on how many months it took us to get 33 minutes of video?
Oh, man, just with the different setups and the different places, a couple of different locations there. I'm going to guess, if I had to guess a number, if I was a betting man, I would have to say there was probably 3, maybe 4 solid weeks of doing some occasional recording here and there just to get it all recorded before it was pieced together afterwards. That probably took maybe another 3 to 4 weeks of a lot of work.
All right, Kathia, you want to wager in? This is like The Price is Right.
Anywhere between 4 to 5 months total, just to be happy with the final product.
Kathia for the win. 6 months.
6 months. Wow.
6 months.
I thought I was going to be overdoing it at 6 months. So I was like, let me go with 4 to 5.
No, 3 sessions in the field house, 2 sessions at high school football games, another session to film some of the backside stories of it, then multiple times in the sound booth to do voiceover. So yeah, 6 months to get 33 minutes of video.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And it's still going strong 8 years later.
Yeah, I'm so proud of that. I would have never, guys, in my wildest dreams would have thought it would have had the impact that it did. Someone from down east tagged me in. Some county they'd used the video, and then they were doing practical skills. And they had got together with the high school athletic trainers. And I was just so happy for that, to see that it's taken flight. It's still going, it's still propagating. And again, if I'm remembered for nothing else, if I can, that particular project, that's a capstone kind of event that many people in medicine don't have that opportunity to ever achieve. And that's not singling me out. That's not an egotistical thing, but we all want to leave our mark on something. You do in education, Kathia does as well. The people we mentor over our years, those clinicians that get better because of what we've done. And again, this has just been an amazing project with such great results.
That one technique that you show them, whether it's a one-on-one debrief,
Right.
a lot of providers remember that one moment that kind of gave them a different point of view and a way of doing something, and they'll remember you.
We in EMS and in medicine all around, we don't see ourselves as mentors many times. We don't
should.
see ourselves as forming people's outlook on the profession, forming their matter that makes up them as they care for people. And it's amazing. We don't know it, and we don't know when it's going to happen. There's no magic pixie dust that gets dropped on us that it's going to happen tomorrow afternoon at 8:15 after a motor vehicle accident. It is truly
Right.
spontaneous. And I think that's one of the things that makes us as a profession so unique. We function with spontaneity, and we have to function in that role, and that drives what we do. And again, as Kathia, you were talking to me about the energy that I had when we were doing
I love it.
the pre-video talk that the folks don't get to see. I think that's what drives all of us, is the spontaneity and the energy that we bring to the profession.
I just love your energy towards education and teaching and and just making people better as providers and sharing all your knowledge and your experience. And that is rare in our field, unfortunately. We don't have enough of that. It's now starting to come up, and there is more of it. The sharing is caring kind of motto, but there just hasn't been enough of it. And I've only been in the field for 10 years, so 9 years.
And it's interesting. I go back to when I went to paramedic school. I look back at let's rewind the tape here for a second. This goes back to one of Mark's questions that was one of the softball questions for this. How do you get started? How do things happen with your career? When I went to paramedic school, physicians still taught the majority of the program. Nurses still taught part of the program. The majority of it was not taught by paramedics the way you look at it in today's world. So it's a very different mindset. And Kathia, you bring up a point, and I wholeheartedly appreciate the shout out and the accolades about education. I never saw this coming. I look back at my career, and it's like I've been the recipient of education awards from the medical school and things along that lines. And I accept them all graciously and humbly, because I never want to come across with attitude when it comes to this. But I never saw this coming in my career. It was one of those things that just kind of happened. And I know that sounds so cliche-ish, but it is true. I just didn't see this coming.
It's one of those spontaneous kind of things. And you talk about spontaneity made me think about the decision you have to make to be spontaneous, right? We're used to spontaneity in EMS, sure, right? Just it's the nature of our work. But what about these spontaneous opportunities we have to really be bold in our career, to make that decision that's outside of your comfort zone? You've also had to step outside of your comfort zone many times to have achieved a lot of the things and done a lot of the things that you're doing now. So for those that are probably earlier in their career, maybe starting to look at coming into a supervisor position, or some of these opportunities present themselves, what advice would you give them to make that bold decision?
So that is an excellent setup for this, is how do you get outside your sandbox? And we as human beings do not like to be uncomfortable. We are such a creature of habit. And suddenly you're faced with this decision of, do I go for this promotion? Do I try to do something that is different? And I think one thing that you have to do is you need to reflect on yourself. And self-reflection and self-evaluation is pardon my, it's kind of gnarly. Okay. People don't like to evaluate themselves. And because and certainly no one likes 360 evaluations where your coworkers get to evaluate you. Then you really find out what people think about you at times.
That's when feelings get hurt.
That's when feelings really get hurt. And we got to be really protective with that. I think you got to see what's your big picture. Each of us in this job at some point in time have a vision. Can I make a difference in education? Am I that person who can be that leader? Is this someone that came up through scouting and had leadership training, and now that he or she can apply that to a particular situation? If we don't challenge ourselves to be different, we will become stagnant so quickly. And in the EMS world, unfortunately, career ladders often are short. Unlike the fire service, where you can have many different levels, especially in smaller rural services, you're a technician, maybe a crew chief, potential maybe to move over to some form of administration. And again, I know it's tough. I get it. The small county EMS service where I started, let's see here if we can see here. Yeah, there. Shout out to, you can see. Yeah, Yadkin County EMS. I worked for them for 20 years. Again, small service, one training officer, one ops guy. When I started there, the supervisor still rode the truck. Okay. Now then they're off the truck. Now they run five trucks 24 hours a day. Growth with that. Where do you find yourself? Where do you see yourself? Everybody's got to have a goal. Whether you want to admit it or not, you have to self-reflect and figure out, where do I want to be? Is there something else out there? And I think each of us in EMS, we go back to that spontaneity. So I guess the word of tonight is spontaneity. At some point in time, everybody's going to be spontaneous in their career. It's just a matter of when that's going to happen.
Yeah, and taking advantage of that opportunity whenever it presents itself. You might not even realize it.
And Mark, I will say this in my career. People can, and you're right. We'll say again, the joke of the pre-video conversation we had, you made the mistake of looking at my continuum profile.
Where is it this guy works again?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my.
Which one did we pick?
Pick one. Just one. Sound just one ping. Okay, we'll do it that way. A great line from an awesome movie, by the way, as we are spontaneous with our conversation. I have been blessed and this is what I think young people don't understand yet. And it goes back to our mentoring stage. I go back to my career and I look at the paramedics that mentored me, that were my field training officers back in the day before they were called field training officers. These were just preceptors, guys that I worked with. I look at the attending physicians in the emergency department that I worked with that are truly legendary names in emergency medicine in Northwestern North Carolina in the field of emergency medicine. Same deal with the orthopedic surgeons I worked with and the athletic trainers at Wake Forest that basically provided the foundation from where I am today. Is there's a potential to be a mentor for people. And they pushed me to step outside the box. And there is something to be said. It helps to be smart, but it helps being at the right place at the right time, knowing the right people. And you cannot discount the fact of knowing people. And that's not necessarily to cash in a favor. But I know in my career, the number of doors that were opened by those clinicians that I worked with. And now then, the best thing that I can do in my position 30 years later in my emergency department, or 38 years later in EMS, is to open doors for these young people, to push them towards being that better person, to push them towards look for that administrative position, go take that instructor class, go take that EMS officer class that Mark was teaching this weekend to improve yourself, to seek that goal out. And you'll be surprised the return you get in the end.
I wish more people saw it that way. I'm very much the person of, I want you to surpass where I am at. I want you to be better than where I am. I want to be a part of your ladder and your journey up higher. My time is one of those that I'm happy where I'm at, and my time will come. But I love being a part of somebody's foundation to get them to a better place, whether it's they do EMS and then they move on to nursing. You don't know what you're teaching somebody and what they're going to take away from it. And I think it's a great thing to be a part of it.
So some of you were all friends on social media. I went to a white coat ceremony on Friday. Former phlebotomist from the emergency department applied to PA school at High Point University. I wrote her a letter. I am very particular about who I write letters for and to help people get into school and things. Went to the white coat ceremony. And of the 15 faculty in the PA program at High Point University, I trained 6 of them. So you don't know where you're going to make these impacts. Kathia, you're exactly right. To watch people succeed, I tell people all the time when the staff that I work with at Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist, I know I've done the right thing and we have created a culture of goodness when they stand at the head of the bed and run a resuscitation and the attending says, "You've got this. If you need anything, let me know."
Yes.
And it's the same way on the rescue truck. These guys perform an evolution and they use the skills, the knowledge that we've given them to go from that. To have a paramedic intern with you and to watch them, it finally clicks how to read an EKG. They look at it as a squiggly line for weeks on end, and suddenly the light bulb comes off. I get this now. I understand what you meant by the fact that squiggly line means electricity, mechanical, electrolyte, and vascular. That's to see the light bulb go on and watch people get better. Kathia, it's
empowering.
It is totally empowering, and people do not realize the head rush that comes with that to watch people succeed.
I love to see the look in their eye when they've just stepped it up that level and it all comes together. That it's a sweet moment.
It truly is. It truly is.
Yep. It just clicks, right? And I think that's something that, as we started in EMS working as an EMT, advanced EMT, paramedic, whatever level, you get some fulfillment out of your job, out of accomplishing these things, reversing that hypoglycemic patient, reversing that overdose, getting ROSC on that cardiac arrest patient, meeting all your benchmarks for taking care of your stroke patient, recognizing that stroke, doing all these things. But it's not, you get to a certain point, well, I've done this before. What level of fulfillment am I getting? And where can I find fulfillment? Where can I find more than just doing well, taking care of patients? Yeah, I've done this, that, and the third, however many times now. So where is it that I find it? And I try to explain to people, look, if you're not finding fulfillment in your job right now as a paramedic, EMT, advanced EMT, go to the next step. There are other things that you can do in EMS, whether you're an EMT wanting to advance your credential, if you're a paramedic, an experienced paramedic, and you want to prepare yourself to go to PA school, to go become a shift supervisor, to get into education and teach at the local community college. Everybody would love to have more instructors at the community college right now, anywhere across the state. Go take your methodology and make that decision that, yeah, it's time for me to expand upon where I'm at versus, like you said earlier, getting kind of complacent. Well, I've done this before. I'm just going to keep on doing it and hope I can keep on doing it. And statistically speaking, that's not the deal. We just don't keep on doing it. What's the average lifespan? Like 3 to 5 years on a paramedic in the state of North Carolina. We don't keep on doing it. And whether that for the variety of reasons, but I feel like if we could find and revitalize our level of fulfillment by taking that next step, making that decision to take that next step, might start retaining more people.
Sometimes it's not just the next step, though. Sometimes it's maybe tweaking what you all do, which is continuing education with those EMS officer classes. I was talking to you, Jeff, earlier about the cadaver lab. Being able to have a hands-on skill that you don't get to perform in the field a lot and be able to do it on a cadaver rekindles a lot of providers that are stagnant and bored with the material that they're given. And it is like, okay, we can do this. It might not happen for another 5 years, but if I keep coming to this, I'll know what I'm doing when it does come to that.
So, Kathia, you bring up an excellent point when you talk about not necessarily, I guess we'll call it stagnation, and we're trying to move the needle on your career. This is this interesting thing that happened for us. And one of the things that you found in my continuum profile is I'm the assistant medical director for Wilkes County EMS. So you're saying, where is this going? When we talk about spontaneity or reinvigoration, we were the 5th EMS agency in the state of North Carolina to institute a pre-hospital whole blood program. We were the first in the state that used not only whole blood, but the life flow system that was developed by Dr. Mark Peel out of Wake Med, and also the Q and flow warmers. Now, disclaimer, I get no financial reimbursement for saying those 3 products. I will just tell you they're amazing products if you choose to have a whole blood program, and we'll leave that alone. But where I was going with this Imagine an EMS agency that is an excellent agency that provides top level care. But Mark, just what you said, you're doing the same thing every day. Maybe that cardiac arrest doesn't provide that degree of fulfillment you've had before. Not only was it the patient impact that we made when we started the program, we had paramedics after they would give whole blood and resuscitate a patient. They were like, literally, this is the quote, "I feel like a real paramedic again."
Yes.
There are things that are coming in what we do that are going to really impact pre-hospital medicine, not just from the patient survival to the ED and survival to discharge that will change morbidity and mortality. But there has to be a clinician that makes that happen. And when you empower them with these programs. Now, that being said, I've had many talks with many of my colleagues. No, whole giving blood does not stop bleeding. Okay, let's get that out
Right.
there. I think we all know that if it's external hemorrhage, we'll stop it with a tourniquet or junctional packing if they're hemorrhaging internally. But as you can tell, I have drank the Kool-Aid when it comes to the whole blood treatment in the pre-hospital realm. Our numbers prove that it makes people better. And to watch the enthusiasm of the people who work for that EMS agency to know, what do I need to do to become certified as a blood medic? What training do I need to do? Because my partner saved a life last week. And now then I have the opportunity to do that. I mean, whole blood programs, I think, have such a movement on our career needle, not just from the impact of morbidity and mortality, but there's going to be somebody who has to do that. And that is just another resuscitative win for you emotionally that most people have never felt before. We've seen it in the emergency department for years, but this is something different. This is a new wave and a new mechanism in the pre-hospital world that I think is really going to be a game changer.
It definitely changes
Absolutely.
that pride factor as a paramedic to say, I am a paramedic. I can do this and I am doing this. And what I just did just changed this person's life in tenfold versus what I was doing before without it.
Exactly. And we all know, and I think this is something that is hard for students to process. You take a student who goes to whatever program that there is, whether it be community college, ever how you get trained, and you are taught all of this stuff and these life-saving skills, these interventions that you're going to make. And unfortunately, the three of us on this podcast and those that are watching and listening realize we don't get to do it that often. So we have to seize the moment. We are truly Julius Caesar here. We have to seize the moment when we can make a difference in somebody's life. Because when that happens, we only get one shot. This is not a do-over. So,
Right.
Kathia, just like you were asking about, we were talking about the cadaver lab, low frequency, high risk procedures. We got one shot to get it right. So we have to be spot on. We can't phone a friend. They're in the 50-50. We can get medical control on the line or maybe your supervisor. But at the end of the day, we got one shot. We only have one way to get, or one time to get it right. And sometimes I wonder in education, do we tell the young this? Do you realize the weight that's on your shoulders? I know you get frustrated when you've gone to XYZ nursing home for the 5th time today. You've gone on the lift assist for the 6th time. You've done whatever, and you're like, really? This is what my job is. Nobody told me I was going to be a social worker, furniture mover, horticultural specialist, getting through shrubbery to get a stretcher in and out, a construction specialist to redo a door to get a stretcher in and out. Nobody told me that in school. That's what my partner told me in my first year of practice. School taught me how to be a good clinician. My partner, more than likely, or my mentor, told me how to be a good paramedic. And those encompass each other together.
There's a lot that's involved in, there's just not enough time in education in a program to really teach those things that you're going to learn in the field. And it's important to mentor and feed your good providers to figure out what's going to rekindle the ones that are a little on the fence of, I'm just going to stay complacent. I don't want to do this. But we really have to figure out how to get them out of that and shake it and be like, hey, you worked hard to be here, to have that cert. You've done your CONET hours. You do this year after year. You know, you've kept your cert for 10 years. Why? Let's figure out why and let's figure out what's going to make you feel like this is your first day out on the truck.
And Mark, you made a point, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
but
you're good.
the 3 to 5 years, why don't we keep people? There's a friend of mine, there's a local community hospital that's hiring paramedics to work in the ED. They had, I think it was a little bit over 10 people apply for the 3 positions. The average years of experience was only like 3 to 4 years experience. Why are people leaving street medicine to go to the hospital? What do they see in the hospital that is the holy grail?
It's something different.
Dang.
Experience.
So now then, look at the rabbit hole we can go down with this. Now then, I want to turn the rabbit hole 180 degrees. Dear friend of mine who is an emergency department paramedic that I work with, today was his last day. Guess where he's going? Back to the truck. Back to the truck.
Why is that?
Interesting. It's a matter of skills. Oh, Kathia, skills. Taking care of patients, being in charge, feeling fulfilled, making a difference. It's not always about the money. Everybody thinks it's about the money. But it's interesting how you can see on one hand, the younger people, I want to do everything I can to get off the truck as fast as I can. I'm going to move to a different setting, or I'm going to use this as a launch pad for my career to go to nursing, PA school, wherever else. I will say this, for Forsyth County EMS, I know Chief Hunley and Brian Gallimore and the guys and Carboy, I know they get frustrated with the turnover sometimes, but the number of people from that agency that have gone on to professional schools such as nursing school, PA, and medical school, they grind them out every year. And is that such a bad thing?
That's amazing.
It is. And you, on one hand, you want to look at this as an administrator and go, we're losing people. On the other hand, do you realize what you're contributing to the medical
You should
community?
be so proud. That means what you
Right.
have going is solid. You have a good foundation. You are building
Right.
these people and making them higher providers. Like, yes, that's what you want.
So this is such a rabbit hole and such a vine that we weave. And this is why these discussions can be so lively. Where do you draw the line for what is a successful EMS agency in regards to personnel?
I say it comes from that development, right? The development of the employee, whether they stay or not, that's a decision they've ultimately got to make, right? But it's that development. The EMS agency that I come from, very rural Eastern North Carolina, you know, no requirement for that for a certain number of years of service ever before you had to work, before you come in to work with us. And we would have people that would come in to work for us a couple years, 2, 3, 4 years, maybe. And now they've met that 2 or 3 year requirement to go work at a larger, faster, maybe high speed type agency. And a lot of people looked at that as a bad thing. And from a training officer perspective, I was like, no, we need to embrace that. This is part of our identity, because first of all, we're not going to be able to change it.
No.
It's going to be that way, right? That's just how we are made up. That's where we're located geographically. That's just how it's going to be. But let's enhance that ability. Let's say, okay, well, we're going to get the people in. Let's train them like we want to keep them. Maybe they do stay, maybe they don't. And if they do leave, they're going to be, hey, that's another one of those dudes from ABC EMS agency. They're going to be squared away. You're going to have that good reputation. And that might in turn also bring back people in that has experience already coming back in. So it's like you said, it's that constant loop. You turn it right back around.
It's interesting how it all feeds back in. It's one big vortex. And it's just or much like a merry-go-round, it's just where do you jump on at?
Yep.
How are you going to look at it? I mean, you can look at it from a dollar sign and be upset. Hey, my turnover is high. Or are you going to look at it? Hey, that's what we're putting out when they leave here.
Young, enthusiastic, energetic people who want to go better themselves and better the medical community. What better way or what better mantra to have?
Right. I don't want the 22-year-old medic coming in and staying at my little 10-person agency for 20 years. Would I love it? Yes, but you're 22 years old. There's so much you can do.
So much.
So much more. And if the foundation you have is the time that you have with us while you're going to school, let me give you that environment to grow. Because one day you'll be taking care of me. I know that's part of what drives me is who's taking care of us when we're done mentoring these people, when we've taught these people and put them out in the field, or we were their supervisors and we're their administrators and things like that. They're taking care of us. These are the people we're going to be looking at one day.
Or even that these are the people that are going to go off and grow and do, and they want to come back home to serve their community at some point, whether they do go to med school and they come back and bring the valuable primary care providers that we need into healthcare systems everywhere, right? Whatever that is, we're contributing to the healthcare system. Yes, we want to contribute to ourselves because we're a little selfish at times, because we don't want to have to go through another hiring process, or we have all these vacancies on the schedule and having to call and text a bunch of people to fill a schedule and everything. But looking at the grand scheme of things, we want them to go off and grow and hopefully maybe come back one day. And serve our own communities.
One of the best, if you can send them the way and have them come back, that is a win in the end. Totally win in the end.
Yes. That's why I've never been mad about anyone wanting to leave to go anywhere else. If you think that if you're leaving for $1, go leave for $1. I get it.
Home will be waiting for you.
Right.
Yeah, you want that experience, go get that experience. You might learn a lot of things and the things that you can bring back, And I know there was a time period that we had a lot of conversations about people leaving and coming back. Well, we don't want to create that rotating door where people just come and go. They chase $1 here, they chase $1 there, they chase $1 here, and they're back and forth. Well, if someone leaves, that's fine. That's their decision. That's their prerogative. But if they want to come back, what's the reason that they want to come back, and what's the value that they're going to bring back? That's what I would look at whenever they would come back to the door to come back to the agency that they left. Not necessarily why they left, why they walked out of that door, but if they're coming back to my door and they want to come in, what are you bringing back? And are you this valuable employee that I would love to have back working in our agency and empowering others?
But are they really chasing $1 or a purpose that they're missing?
Yeah, that's another thing it could be.
And
sorry, Jeff.
No. That's an interesting point to think about. Again, so you have this paramedic, seasoned paramedic, who came off the truck to come to the ED, and now then is going back to the truck. Think how much better a clinician he's going to be the next shift he works riding the ambulance.
So fast, so quick. That critical thinking is
totally unbelievable what he will bring to the table when it comes to this. Unbelievable. So to me, it's just interesting how this thing is a big vicious circle. This is much like cue the scene from Lion King. This is the circle of life.
That should be the intro to this.
It is amazing. When we can put a Disney movie into a podcast like this, I think we've done well for this evening to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I have really enjoyed the conversation, and I feel like we've only probably skimmed the surface of all the things that we could discuss and really dive deep into. So I feel like sometime in the future, we're going to have Mr. Jeff Hinshaw back on the EMS Wizard podcast, maybe to follow up, maybe just check in again sometime later on down the road, see how things are going and see what new job titles you've added to your list of things and what your new project is. And
did we even get to any one of the questions, the softball questions?
So we might have got close to some of them, but I feel like what we talked about was a lot better. I feel like what we talked about was a lot better.
Reason why to bring you back.
And as I tell you guys, it was totally honored when you reached out, Mark, for this. Anytime for this, you just never, like this whole thing talked, and we'll close the loop with it. You just never know who you'll impact with this. A simple, a chance meeting, a chance patient encounter, getting a chance to hear somebody speak or something along that lines. Again, I go back to my career. I never envisioned myself in this particular role. I just wanted to, as I started as an 18-year-old, and I'll say this redneck Randy wanting to going to save the world with a scissor pouch and a scanner, one patient at a time. Yes. And those that are my mentors remember back when I was like that. And now I'm that salty old guy that goes, we don't need to be running those red lights. You need to slow down and all this stuff. It's interesting how, as we move along the train of our career, what boxcar we're at. the young person, middle of the career. I'm 38 years into this. Now I'm the salty guy. Why did you run that? Why did you run red lights to that call? And then go from there. And I'm like, yeah, I know why. Because we all get that feeling that we're going to make a difference, and we go from there. We enjoy what we do. That we truly do.
Terry's going to be mad that he wasn't on this episode now for the train reference.
Oh,
just because he's missed out on the train reference, that he's going to be so
Just
mad that he
right
missed
there is
out.
enough.
yeah. Oh,
I'll text him here in a minute, let him know.
Yeah, and like I said, we're all social media friends. You guys know that I love me some trains as well. So that goes along very well when it comes to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, he's going to be so salty. He's going to be the salty old man.
Over
trains.
trains.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, thank you very much again. Very much enjoyed the conversation, and look forward to talking with you next time.
Yeah, sounds good, guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Hopefully we'll get things squared away. We'll be in touch with that experience. Hopefully we'll decide to do the labs and things. And Mark, as always, buddy, again, my pleasure to spend my Sunday evening with you, and would wholeheartedly welcome the opportunity to come back and let's pick a topic and chat about it, whether it be blood, whether it be sports, whether it be professions, anything like this. And this has been quite an experience, and I am so glad you guys reached out that we could make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there will definitely probably be a blood episode coming up. And I don't know, we might have to get Chief Zalkin to come in and add into it too, add that entertainment level too.
Oh, I think something tells me he would wholeheartedly agree to spend a Sunday night with us to do this. That should not be a problem.
That might end up a 2-episoder.
Possibly, but much like this one. Is this going to be like a continuing episode? Do we need to be continued at the end of this in your video thing?
To be continued, ...
There we go.